Alright guys, so we are still in Unit 2B, and just to remind you what we were talking about, our vocab is about appliances and being around town or the neighborhood. Hopefully you have your note cards at home with you to flip through once or twice. That would be a good idea so that you haven't forgotten everything and can continue to learn the current topic. And if not, you guys have pictures on the last two sets of notes or videos from the e-learning days that you can review at least some of the vocab from. Demonstratives demonstrate where things are. Demonstratives are this and these. They have T's. That and those don't. That and those far away start with A. The akel, akeya. Near and far, cerca and lejos. Here, there, over there. Aquí, allí, allá. All of those things should mean something to you, and if not, go back over those video notes or your actual physical notes if you have them with you. More about object pronouns. Indirect objects we are going to be talking about today, and we've been reviewing verbs that work like usted because you learned those back in Spanish 1, and they use indirect objects, so it's sort of like an intro to this. So if you have your indirect object and indirect object pronoun notes, get them out. Get out a highlighter or a yellow crayon or something like that and follow along. If you don't have them, please still follow along, and then just make sure that you do the highlighting to your notes before the next binder check, and that you write down the example sentences on a separate sheet of paper. So indirect objects and indirect object pronouns. To find if a sentence asks, or to find if the sentence has an indirect object, ask yourself to or for whom. Sometimes it's from whom, but to or for whom will help you find out if your sentence has an indirect object. Highlight this, highlight this. Indirect object pronouns are special, as we mentioned before in your previous notes. Usually pronouns replace nouns, but what's special about indirect objects is if something is being done to or for someone, you must have an IOP. You must. And here are your indirect object pronoun options, which you probably remember from gustar. And what they really mean is not just me, you, him, her, but to or for me, to or for you. So please make sure that you remember the to and fors. Highlight that. Moving on, we have our example sentences, and let's go ahead and label them, hopefully more nicely and neatly than I have here. It's hard to draw with a mouse, but as you know from our notes, we always underline our subject and our verb or verb phrase. So we underline el profesor and está explicando. To find the direct object, you ask who or what's being verbed, what's being explained, the lesson. So circle la lección. And it's being explained to him, her, it, or you formal. So put a box around that because that's how we diagram these sentences. And then in this one, the teacher is explaining is still our subject and verb phrase, so underline. What's being explained? The lesson, so that's the direct object, which we circle. And it's being explained to Juan. So Juan is our indirect object. But if something's happening to or for someone, there must be an IOP. So I've just drawn a connecting line to the lay. The lay has to be there. If you can get rid of anything in this sentence, it's the a Juan and still have a complete sentence like the one above. Alright, so diagram those two sentences and highlight this. To write a sentence that says something is happening to or for someone, you find and state the subject and verb phrase. This should already be underlined in your notes if you did them correctly because I asked that it be underlined when you took them. You state the direct object or direct object pronoun, which we circle. You find and state the indirect object pronoun, put a box around it, and you add IOP clarification or emphasis if necessary. How do you do that? A plus whatever. And I think this needs to be added. I don't think that was in the original notes. Speaking of your original notes, the thought just occurred to me that I don't think I had passed these back to you yet, so I don't think you actually have them, so you'll have to highlight them later. And so unfortunately, you're actually going to have to write these sentences down on a separate sheet of paper. So I guess everybody needs to get out a separate sheet of paper and write these sentences down so that you have them. Unfortunately, you have to write these 3 sentences a second time, but it's really not that big of a deal. And let's go over this lesson because we can't miss a day of lessons just because we don't have school again. We have to keep going so that you guys are learning and are prepared. All right, here we go. if we want to write a sentence that says something's happening to or for someone, the first thing I have to do is find and state the subject. So, who's the subject of this sentence? We are. And what are we doing? We're giving. So, I'm going to say, nosotros. I have it in parentheses because you guys know that the form of the verb damos can only mean we give. But go ahead and write it so that you have it. And state the direct object. To find the direct object, you ask who or what's being verbed. What's being given? Many gifts. Muchos regalos. And then it says find, state the indirect object pronoun. So, if it's happening to the children, then the IOP is going to be me, te, le, nos, os, or lace. If it's happening to them, my IOP is going to be lace. Where can I put it in the sentence? Well, what type of a verb do I have? I have a conjugated verb. You might remember that indirect object pronouns go before the conjugated verb. Right now, this is a lovely sentence. It says, we give many gifts to them. But it doesn't say to the children. So we do need to add IOP clarification. So I'm going to say a, and how do you say the children? Los niños. Yes, hijos also means children, but only if they're actually your children. All right. Skip another line and write down this English sentence. My dad prepares lunch for me and my brother. And let's write this sentence. We need to state the subject and verb phrase. Who's doing the preparing? My dad. So my dad's the subject. Mi papá. Without the accent, it means potatoes, so we need that. What is he doing? He's preparing. So I'm going to take the verb preparar and conjugate it for my dad. O, as, a. He's doing the preparing. So underline your subject and your verb because they correspond, they go together. Then we need to state the direct object. Who or what's being verbed, what's being prepared? Lunch. How do you say lunch? Almuerzo. And now we need to state the indirect object pronoun because if something's being done to or for someone, you must have an IOP. Yes, I keep repeating that. Hopefully it will get stuck in your brain. And so if it's happening for me and my brother, which IOP do I need? Me, te, le, nos, os, or lace. It's happening for us, so I need nos. I need to place it correctly in relationship to the verb, and it's a conjugated verb. Where do pronouns go in relationship to conjugated verbs? Before. All right, let's see how our sentence is doing so far. My dad prepares or is preparing lunch for us. That is a lovely sentence, but it doesn't quite say this sentence yet. So I need to clarify, and I do that by putting a in front of each person listed. So I can't yo, so I will me with an accent. A, mi, hermano. Why doesn't this me have an accent? Because me for my, no accent. Me for my, no accent. All right. Skip another line and say, write down, she is cutting the lawn for Dad right now. So I need to state the subject, she. And then to say what someone is doing right now, you use a conjugated form of estar. She is, está. To cut is cortar. So I take off the AR and add ando because it's estar plus ando yendo. Or sorry, estar plus the present participle, which is the ando or yendo. And how do you say the lawn? Because that's what's being cut, that's what's being verbed. L. Césped. Okay, so I've done step 1 and step 2. Step 3, state the indirect object pronoun. So it's happening for Dad, so I need lay, and I'm going to put it before the conjugated verb, because you can always put it before the conjugated verb. It's not easy to write with a mouse, so this isn't going to look very nice. But lay, there we go, and we put a box around it. And let's see how our sentence is so far. It says, she is cutting the lawn for him. that's a good sentence, but I want to say for dad, so I need to add clarification. I do that by adding a. So, papa. So that's our sentence for that one. Write that down, and then let's have a look at these sentences. So we always make sure that our subject and verb match, because you always conjugate your verb for your subject. So we're doing the giving. Nos damos, mi papá prepara, ella está. Those work. And then your indirect object pronoun, which has to be there, should match the clarification. Les matches a los niños, nos matches a mí y a mi hermano, and le matches a papá. Then we can see if there's any other ways to write this sentence by asking, do we have any other types of verbs or places we can put the pronoun? We only have one verb in this one, damos, so pronoun goes before the conjugate verb. We only have one form of a verb in this one, prepara, conjugated, goes before it, but we have two types of verbs in this sentence. So I have a conjugated verb, but I also have cortando. What did I say that's called? That's called a present participle, and we can attach it at the end of it. If we do, we need an accent on the penultimate syllable, not counting the pronoun. So in this example, cortando, lo, I wouldn't count the lo, last, second to last. That's just an example. Our sentence is actually going to be cortando le, so let me erase the le from over here. And go ahead and skip a line. Rewrite ella está cortando, but this time attach the le at the end. And we need to put the accent on the A. So ella está cortándole el césped a papá. So you had the first sentence, ella le está cortando el césped a papá. Skip a line, and now you have ella está cortándole el césped a papá. I couldn't write another sentence because I'm out of room. And let's try one more sentence on your own. Let's add this sentence. Are you playing the stereo for me? And let me walk you through it just a little bit. It's a question, so you're going to have to start with an upside down question mark and end with a question mark. And then your sentence is just going to be the sentence, you are playing the stereo for me, but it just has question marks around it. So if you follow the steps, 1, state your subject and your verb phrase. So your subject is you. My verb phrase is are playing. And what's being played? The stereo. Step 2 is to state the direct object, and then step 3 is to state the indirect object pronoun, me, te, le, nosos, or les, and put it where it belongs. And then, if you need clarification or emphasis, add it. And because this is happening right now, are playing, there will be 2 ways to write this sentence, and give them a try. I appreciate you putting forth your best effort, and I will see all of these sentences on a separate sheet of paper to put in your binder behind your notes that I still have, because we haven't had class for me to pass them back to you. My apologies. And then we'll just highlight them all up and make sure that they're good. Alright guys, good job. And let me just add this to be very clear. In order to get full credit for this, you will have written this sentence down and your attempt at the Spanish and another line where writing the other way can be written, because the pronoun can be moved. And if you're wondering how to do this because you don't have the notes in front of you, you do. They're just in the video. Reread and pause as necessary so that you can get the right information. I'm sure you can do it. Thanks, guys.